Second paragraph, the Great One is the term given to that which has nothing above it. You know, in modern math, they have an expression of set theory. Now, a set is a grouping. Like we have two sets here, men and women. But you could think of a more inclusive set that would be persons. Then in the earth, we have three sets. We speak of mineral, vegetable, and animal. Or we could put all of those together and imagine a set that is inclusive of physical manifestation. Then we have what we call the physical and the non-physical. Now, can you imagine a set that is all-inclusive of all the others? So some people speak of God and the devil. Well, is there something that includes both? And we're looking for the inclusive oneness. Now, when we say God, we should be referring to that. The term here is the Great One, is the term given to that which has nothing above it. An all-inclusive set. The secret of the magic of life consists in using action in order to attain non-action. What is the Sanskrit word for action? Karma. See, karma literally means action. That's all that it literally means. Now, if we want to insert that and read this in another way, we may read, the secret of the magic of life consists in using karma in order to attain non-karma. And the way the readings put that is, start where you are. There's no place to begin except right here. But in beginning to use what we have, where we are, use that at hand in order to begin to grow to be free from the limitation of that. But one must not wish to leap over everything and penetrate directly. Now, we do wish to leap over everything and penetrate directly. Right? Someone says, I've been meditating like this for 3 months and nothing has happened. Or why is it now that I've been working on this that my life is not completely clear of difficulty? One must not wish to leap over everything and penetrate directly. But the maxim handed down to us is, and you know the Chinese have a marvelous way of understating things. Isn't this something? To take in hand the work on human nature. Now, the work is the term that's used, as you know, in the Edgar Cayce Readings to refer not only to the specific work of Edgar Cayce and that organization, the ERE, but it's a broader term. It's a term used by Gurdjieff in referring to the whole process of taking in hand this that we have to do with human nature, the work. In doing so, it is important not to take any wrong path. So it's line upon line, do what you know to do today. Now, you get the spirit of our attempt to take that we know, to enrich that, and to see it from a different perspective through the words of the Secret of the Golden Flower.
It is suggested here, of course, and I'm sure you heard it as Herb was speaking about it, that you can, through meditation, come to understand what you have created as karma. And it begins to merge into the total experience instead of into the separate pieces of it that take you apart, literally, person by person, situation by situation. And you begin to sense that the whole of experience in the earth is one life, and that the pieces of karma, the living and the involvement that you've made, are like the days in a week or a year, and add up to the whole. Now, if you fight this through piece by piece, person by person, you will be an eternity, as they say, caught on that wheel and get squashed every time it turns. But meditation is a way of coming to a realization of the totality of this and dealing with it as one kind of experience. This is my feeling about that karma, and I think it's yours, too. You begin to sense it. You're not in the fight with Mrs. Jones over the dogs tearing up the thing. She's not an enemy from the past. Or the husband that you've married and is beating the daylights out of you didn't just come out of a bad piece of karma where you beat him up. This becomes a part of the whole of experience of a day, and you begin to sense the totality of it. Are you hearing? Because if you're not, why, we'll develop it later, but...
Now, several of the references that have been made in just these 2 or 3 paragraphs will be commented on in a continuing way, like this expression, using action to attain non-action. There'll be several references to that in the text as we go on in enriching this.
Hence, details on the wrong path that we can stumble into. This text has few places where you find the dangers of meditation spelled out in detail. And Herb and I and everybody down here runs into people who are in trouble with meditation over their heads many, many times over, all the time. when the wrong paths are chosen. And you can see these. They're clearly outlined later here.
The golden flower is the light. What color is the light? You may make a notation, page 62. Don't look at it now, but just note that you'll want to look at that later. One uses the golden flower as a symbol. It is the true energy of the transcendent Great One. The phrase, the lead of the water region has but one taste, refers to it. Now, the golden flower is the light. Light is a marvelous term in physics, and modern physicists have a sense that there is in space, pure energy. Then there's the physical manifestation, and the sort of mediating point between pure energy and that which is manifest is the photon, which is the smallest known unit of light. The mediator between energy and matter is the smallest unit of light. Or we may say it is at the point at which energy comes into manifestation, light. We hear of the Christ as the mediator, and especially as it relates to the mind as the creator between the energy and that which is manifest. Now, that's where the action begins to take place, and why we're especially interested in the light. Again, as I mentioned, the Gospel of John especially, and others, this reference to the role of the light in a richer sense than just enlightenment. Energy, as it moves into manifestation, begins to have the quality of vibration.
Vibration would be sort of an appearance of energy.
Once you're getting to vibration, you're also approaching manifestation.
Herb, I've got a reference here that I've looked for. I didn't have it home today. May you can get it for me. Under the lead of the water region has but one taste, refers to it, 1468-5. That's a reading reference. If you pick it up for me tomorrow.
Well, what it says is Leiden or lead.
Lead.
Now, you'll notice on your chart
1468-5.
Earth, water, fire, and air are the elements. And the seven centers, we're going to have to get right into these. Earth, water, fire, air, and then the higher three centers. Now, at this level of the element water, the center is the light. And this statement, just out of the blue, the lead of the water region has but one taste. The lead of the water region. This is the water region. Now, the reading that Hugh just mentioned, 1468-5, says Leiden or leaden, the lead of the water region. This association is one of the curiosities, but we have many reasons as we continue to know that this text is referring to these seven centers.
Now, we're talking here about the cells of Leydig, specific endocrine activity in your body. The cells of Leydig that are in the gonads and in the adrenal gland. They are tissue, and they secrete. And it's Leydig, cells of Leydig here, that you'd find, not Leiden. The man who invented the Leyden jar.
We started off talking about the light. We're going to discover that that's especially associated with the pineal, and then that the Leiden and the pineal work together in a very special way as the seat of the soul. Now, this material working with the concepts of anima and animus, not exactly in Jungian terms, to be sure, but referring to human nature and to the true self and the separation of those. Now, get this clear. The readings say the seat of the soul in the body, special place where energy comes into manifestation, is this oneness of the Leiden and the pineal. So it is not out of context where it is said the golden flower is the light, and then immediately also starts talking not only about this light center, which is the pineal, as a kind of third eye, but also this that's so closely associated with it. The tie-in is clear once you sense that seat of the soul relationship between those two centers. Now, in our paragraphing, we are including the commentary, which was added later. Let's take a look at that. Right into this center again with the water center. Heaven created water through the One. That's the true energy of the Great One. If man attains this One, he becomes alive. If he loses it, he dies. But even if man lives in the energy, he does not see the energy, just as fishes live in water but do not see the water. Man dies when he has no vital breath, just as fishes perish when deprived of water. Therefore, the adepts have taught people to hold fast to the primal and to guard the One. It is the circulation of the light and the maintaining of the center. If one guards this true energy, one can prolong the span of life and can then apply the method of creating an immortal body by melting and mixing. There are a couple of ways to think about the working of this primal force through our body. Let me suggest one way of visualizing the nature of man. I get this from a dream of Edgar Cayce, to think of ourselves as a funnel. This is not a V in the terms of 2 dimensions, but a 3-dimensional funnel. What we are, a way to define man is, we are a focal point of consciousness, yet in potential contact with God. This is a depiction of the relationship between the finite of our own experience and our potential oneness with the infinite. But we are cut off from that. And so we can say, as Jesus did, He is the vine, we are the branch. Now, examining that text again, it says, if we attain to this oneness of this energy, we truly become alive. If we lose it, we die. Man dies when he has no vital breath, just as fish die when deprived of water. Therefore, we must hold to that primal, that one force. This oneness must be entering into our lives. Now, how does that flow take place from the infinite into the finite? Through this system, this attunement system, working as a whole, is the circuitry, the flow system of the way in which this energy comes through the light into manifestation in our bodies.
Or you might say it this way, that the soul operates through these centers. Your soul, your spiritual life, your real being operates here through these centers in your body. Now, when you can begin to allow that spiritual energy to move, and this is your circulation of the light, it's easy to move it, but to fix it, as you hear in just a little bit, is a little more difficult. And meditation is this process of allowing this to take place. In another definition of meditation, Edgar Cayce speaks of it as a cleansing of the, and he speaks of these, he doesn't call them by name, but speaks of the centers through which the energy moves, the cleansing of these. And as it moves and flows, it cleanses. Now, we're going to talk in the next paragraph about how to do that without this business of fighting it out on every single one of the centers. This is something that blew my mind when I began even to think that I understood what the readings were saying and what this text is saying about the possibility. I've heard Herb 1,000 times, and he'll say it at least 12 times this week, that it only takes a matter of seconds for this movement to take place and focus. But we have to practice a long, long time before that happens. And it is not a matter of beating ourselves to death as we move that energy up through these centers. Not at all. The movement and cleansing takes place when it goes all the way up, as you see, and begins to flow back down. All of your great Hindu teachers speak of this and that flowing down process. Mel Reaper is the one I quote, but there are many others in this. And this is what we're going to get into in the next sentence. I'm jumping.
This paragraph begins by talking about water. We were talking about light. And so we need to keep in mind this relationship between the water and the light. Jesus says, I'm the light of the world. He also says, I'm the water of life. And if you will study the references in the Edgar Cayce Readings to water, you'll find almost a literal, it's almost saying the Spirit of Christ and water, H2O, are the same. There's just an amazing parallel between that which is necessary to all forms of life, water, and this source of all life that we have in the Spirit.
Makes this business of sprinkling and ducking that the Christians run around trying to do a little more meaningful, by the way, too, as we get at it.
Now, what is this about creating an immortal body? Well, have you thought in your study of this kind of philosophy that you didn't have an immortal, there's some kind of an immortal body that you don't have now that you need to have or might possibly have? Have you addressed this consideration? You know, we sort of say, well, we're souls, we incarnate in bodies, we get things cleaned up, we don't have to mess around with the body anymore. But this is inviting us to be seriously concerned about creating an immortal body.
Yeah, one that doesn't get caught.
One that
places that called hell and purgatory by some.
One that can leap tall buildings in a single bound. You know? It can move. The dimensions.
After we get out of this, instead of hanging around.
And if you'll study...
Moving chairs and recliner chairs.
If you'll study the Search for God Book 2 readings on destiny, especially the destiny of the body, and we're going to look more closely at this because there are many references to this diamond body. The idea is that we can work with the development of a kind of body, not a flesh body, but still maybe a physical body, that is something very, very special.
We think that Jesus sort of worked one out. That's
right. He showed us how to do that.
How to do that, and arrived at one that he could move around a bit.